All right, what is going on, audience? It's MindIpe here. Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing an NFL mock draft. Something new. Obviously, I haven't done anything like this quite before. So, on video, actually, I've never really done a mock draft before either, but that's not the point. Anyway, I should pause draft just to make sure it doesn't go on me. I don't know what the timing is. Anyway, basically, what I want to do is I just want to get this video out so I can have some. I want my thoughts on the draft to be out there. I'm going to be doing today just a one round, first round, all 32 teams I'm going to be drafting for. And then I actually plan on doing a 7-round specifically just for the Packers mock draft. And one thing to know just about me going in is I don't have the time to watch film or anything. I follow college ball a little bit, not quite as much as the NFL. But I do follow draft coverage. I follow a handful of YouTubers that do draft coverage, and so I know a little bit about it, but this is going to be more about what the team needs as opposed to which prospect necessarily is the best for each draft pick. So basically, I do have my own opinions about a lot of the players, especially first round players, and then after that it's more just what the team needs, what type of player they need, not necessarily which player specifically they need. So I guess we'll just hop right into it then. Picking at number 1, we got Carolina. They made a crazy trade up, which I still think is crazy. Trade with the Bears. They sent over a couple of picks and DJ Moore, and they get the first overall pick. And obviously they're going to be taking quarterback here. You don't trade for number 1. Oops. Obviously they're going to be taking a quarterback here. You don't trade for number 1 overall without the idea of taking a quarterback. And there's a couple that I like. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't need to go into that specifically. I think what I've heard is that the NFL doesn't like CJ Stroud quite so much as they may have used to, or as much as the public likes him. I still think Bryce Young is probably the best quarterback in this class. I think there's a chance he doesn't do as well as people are, some people think because of his size, but I still think he has the playmaking ability and the IQ. He has all the pieces except the size. So I still think he's going number 1 overall here to Carolina. I think the size isn't as big as an issue as a lot of people think, but it's still something to monitor and consider. And then at number 2, I think the Texans, there's a big rumor that they're not going quarterback anymore, and I don't really blame them for that. I think you could, run with Davis Mills one more year. I think he's shown flashes. I don't think he's obviously not a great quarterback, but you give him one more year maybe. You're not winning. You're not going to be good. You're not going to be competitive next year whether or not you draft a good quarterback, I think, because first of all, they're the Texans. Second of all, they don't have much of a team around him. So I don't think you have to go quarterback here. I think you could take another player who I probably am going to take in Will Anderson, just to get a good defensive player, especially since they bring in a defensive-minded head coach. And then maybe next year where it's going to be a good quarterback class, you could maybe look to get one then, because you're probably going to be picking around the same range anyway, regardless of if you draft CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson or not or something like that. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to take Will Anderson. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to trade back too and collect more picks. I'm not going to do any trading in my mock draft here today just because that is so hard to predict. I'm not even going to bother trying since I'm not much of an NFL expert or draft expert as it is. So I'm just going to be sticking and picking with all the teams. I will mention where it makes sense for a team to trade back, like the Texans could. The Cardinals could trade back here, especially since the person they were most likely taking would be Will Anderson. I think, this probably would be a really good trade back spot for the Cardinals since Will Anderson's off the board because they don't need quarterback. Regardless of what you think of Kyler Murray, I still think he's a good quarterback, in my opinion. He's dynamic. He's got an arm. It's a size issue again with Kyler. It's the same thing you worry about with Bryce Young. But I still think Kyler Murray's got it. He's a very talented quarterback in my opinion. And then that leaves next, who are you taking? You could take Jalen Carter. I'll talk on Jalen Carter a little bit because I think I think people are blowing his mistake this past season out of proportion, or off season, I should say, where he got into that major car crash where I don't know all the details. Somebody died though. Somebody had passed. It was like a drag race or a racing thing or something like that, and it's a mistake. You know, that's how I see it. Like, obviously that's a crazy mistake to make, and I don't blame anybody for questioning him about it. However, you know, he's young. He's a college kid. You know, college kids makes plenty of mistakes. I'd be surprised if anybody hadn't made a mistake on this list. However, obviously somebody dying from your mistake is pretty crazy, and you know, it's something to consider. However, I still think he's a great prospect. I don't think it's something that's going to come up in his career later on. And for the Cardinals who need D-line help, I know it's not necessarily realistic that Carter goes here because the rumors are that he's not going because of character issues. However, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Cardinals to take Jalen Carter here at number 3. So that's what I'm going to do. This is going to be like what I would do in the situation. Like I said, I'm obviously not a quarterback, an NFL expert or anything, but, you know, I still have my opinions. Every fan has their opinions. Okay, for number 4, for the Colts, obvious quarterback spot. I've been saying they needed to draft a quarterback for like the past 3 seasons just because they keep taking like veteran quarterbacks and it's not working out for them. They need to draft a young guy, they need to develop him, and they need to do it while Jonathan Taylor is still young and still, you know, like a top tier running back in the league, because especially after last season, you really have to consider what his, you know, status is in the tiers of NFL running backs going forward. Now, I think this is a great CJ Stroud spot. A lot of like the reasons people aren't liking CJ Stroud quite so much anymore is because they worry that he's like a what's it called, like a system guy, where he will be good in a good system, but he'll be bad in a bad system. Like, he won't develop if he goes to a terrible team like the not the Cardinals, like the Texans. But I think the Colts would be a pretty good spot for CJ Stroud to go to, since they have a good O-line, they have a good running back, they have some solid receivers, they have a solid defense. So I don't see why this doesn't make sense for the Colts here, in my opinion. I think Anthony Richardson is a very enticing option. I actually really like Anthony Richardson as a prospect. If you know me, you know I like dual threat quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson is a particularly fun dual threat quarterback because of his power as a runner, as opposed to like Lamar Jackson's like agility as a runner. So he reminds me of Cam Newton in that way, and I used to love Cam Newton as well back when he played. I think for the Colts, CJ Stroud would just work. You just worry about the head coach. Obviously, that is still, you know, like, you got to worry about that a little bit, especially at quarterback development. However, I just think the team around him would be a good spot for Stroud, so that's why I'm going to take him here at 4 to Indianapolis. And then we get Seattle here, and I think a lot of people still think this is a quarterback spot, even though they just re-signed Geno after having a great bounce-back season, you know, most improved player type beat kind of season. And I still think people think that it's a quarterback spot because you have to look to the future, of course. However, I think this is a defensive spot, pretty obviously defensive line. I think Tyree Wilson makes perfect sense here for Seattle. Edge, big need. I mean, they have some good edge pieces. They have Boye Mafe. They have, what's that other guy's name? Very worst. However, I could definitely see him, you know, blossoming his rookie season and overtaking one of the starting roles from one of their other guys. I mean, Boye Mafe is just a one-year player as well, so he still has, you know, things to improve on himself. Anyway, we get to the Lions here, and another possible quarterback spot, obviously. I think Jared Goff is going to be good enough for another season, but I think it makes a lot of sense to take it makes a lot of sense to take a quarterback at this position because you don't know how long Jared Goff's going to be there. He's already starting to get old. And he's really not all that good. He's like a good enough quarterback. He's very mediocre in my opinion. I think Anthony Richardson makes a lot of sense here. Actually, I'm thinking about taking him. The thing is with this mock draft, like I was saying, I'm not doing trades. However, Anthony Richard is not going to be here at 6 still. Like, I really don't think he will. Some team is going to trade up for him. Will Anderson and Jalen Carter is definitely not going at 3. Like, I just want that. Like, I realize that. And it's not like I think he's going to go. I just think it makes sense for him to go there. But a team is going to trade up to either 2 or 3 to take, Anthony Richardson. I think Richardson could go ahead of Stroud. I just think Stroud makes sense for Indianapolis here. But I think it also makes sense for Richardson to go at 2 or 3. Some team will trade up. It just depends on which one of these teams is okay moving back. And I think the Texans and Cardinals makes a lot of sense to move back. And it depends on what team's going to move up. You look at the Raiders maybe. You look at Tennessee maybe. I don't know. Depends. However, I just think with the way my draft here is shaping up, I think Anthony Richardson at 6 to the Lions is really good. They need D-back as well, corner, Christian Gonzalez. Who else you got here? Devin, whatever. And then Joey Porter makes a lot of sense, even Cam Smith. However, they have another first-round pick at 18, so there is going to be another good corner available at that spot. So why not take Anthony Richardson here at 6? It's kind of a steal, all things considered. But that's just the way my board is shaking up. This is more about just getting my thoughts out there about it, not making like a perfect, realistic mock draft. Because if I would try making trades. However, I just don't know. And it's hard to know. Raiders at 7. I think Will Levis here makes a lot of sense. They could move back potentially. They do have Garoppolo, so they don't really need Levis. What do they need? I think they need O-line help. What does the team need say here for the Raiders? OT, DT, yeah. Tackle, defensive tackle, corner, safety, guard. See, that's what I thought too. I think they need... How do I get rid of this now? I think they need O-line help. So I just don't know how necessary that's going to be, I guess. Well, I think O-line is definitely in play here. This feels kind of early for some of these O-linemen. So this is kind of like a trade. Like if Richardson, Young, and Stroud are gone by 7, the Raiders should definitely move back. Unless they just like Will Levis that much. I think it is a quarterback spot for the Raiders. I know a lot of people think Garoppolo is good, but I don't think he's going to be good in Las Vegas. He's going to do basically about as good as Derek Carr does. I kind of have them in the same tiers in terms of like starting quarterback tiers. I actually think Derek Carr in New Orleans is going to be a lot better than Garoppolo in Vegas just because the Saints have a better team around Derek Carr. And I think that was his big issue in Las Vegas was that the Raiders just don't really have a great team around him. Obviously, they have some weapons offensively, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. Not Darren Waller anymore, but they have maybe 2 weapons ain't bad, though. But their O-line sucks and their defense ain't great either. I think this would be a D-line spot, an edge rusher spot. But I'm just going to go O-line. I think O-line makes sense here. And like I said, I'm not trading, so I'm going O-line. I'm going to go Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State. I think he's a really good tackle. I don't know as much about tackles, but what I've heard is that he's a good run blocking tackle, and I think that makes a lot of sense for the Raiders considering they have, maybe a top 3 running back in the league in Josh Jacobs, top 5 at the very worst, I would say. Behind maybe, who you thinking? Maybe not Derrick Henry anymore, but probably Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor. Well, maybe Derrick Henry. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because you don't know how these players are going to regress into the next season. However, obviously Josh Jacobs is going to be a top-tier running back in the league, and bringing in a good run-blocking O-lineman to help him out with that, I think is a great idea. And I just think their O-line's bad, and I think that's a big part of the Raiders' problem is their O-line is bad. And then you get to the Falcons, and I think this could be pretty much anything. I don't think they have any position like solidified for sure. This could be a running back spot. I know a lot of people love Algier, and I think he's good, but he's not great. I don't know if he's like an every down back. So this could be a Bijan spot. I feel like that feels weird though, because I think Bijan's a great running back, and I think he deserves to go high but I understand why people don't think that running back should go high. But I think running back should not go high for a different reason. I think it's like a luxury position, in my opinion. I think you have to do like almost everything else right, and then you can get a really good running back. I don't think you need to go and get a running back first and then fill out the rest of your positions. I think it's like a luxury pick. That's why I don't think they should take a running back here. I just don't know what they should take otherwise. Let's see. What are their needs? Guard, tackle, edge, D tackle, corner. I don't know. It's a tough one for me. It's a tough spot here. I mean, quarterback is definitely a position in need potentially. I don't know if they want to go Will Levis here. Who even is their starting quarterback? Oh, no, they brought in... Who do they bring in? They brought in a quarterback. Oh, yeah, they brought in Taylor Heineke. So they don't, like, need a quarterback. I don't know if Will Levis... Like, I don't think Will Levis is going to be better than Taylor Heineke. And, like, I know Taylor Heineke's not great, but I've kind of grown to have, like, a soft spot for him. So I think he'll do okay. It's another one of those teams, though, that's not going to have a great year, regardless on if they draft a top-tier quarterback or not. Like, they're going to be picking highly again next year, and it's another good quarterback class, probably a better quarterback class next year than it is this year. So I don't think they should take quarterback. I think Myles Murphy kind of makes sense here. I've heard bad things like about Myles Murphy. However, I think edge makes a lot of sense. D-line specifically just makes a lot of sense for the Falcons here. So I'm going to go Myles Murphy. And then you get to the Bears here at 9. And I think O-line is definitely their top need. I think they could have looked D-line if there was a good D-lineman available here. But I think Broderick Jones just makes a lot of sense here for the Bears. I think Skoronski could work too, just because Skoronski could play like anywhere on the line basically. And the Bears basically need help at every spot on the line. But Broderick Jones is also a very good O-tackle, so I think, you know, the Bears getting Broderick Jones at 9 is a perfectly good spot for it. I think the Eagles, you know what, I'm just going to lock it in right away. I think Bijan makes a lot of sense for the Eagles here. Because what I was saying earlier, it's a luxury pick is a running back. And the Eagles have a lot of positions covered, like, overall. Like, they have good wide receivers. They have a good quarterback. They have, you know, they even have a decent running back in Rashad Penny. However, I don't think he's, like, all that good, and he can't stay healthy either. Defensively, they have a great D-line. They have great linebackers. They have great defensive backs. Although they did just lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. However, they have another first-round pick. So if they want to address defensive back, they can do it later in the draft. So I think just Bijan is going to take that offense up another notch, which is already insane because it was already very, very good, obviously. And then you get to the Titans at 11. I think they are going to probably look to trade up for a quarterback. And it's actually interesting because I just heard a rumor maybe last night or this morning that they potentially want to also trade for Aaron Rodgers, which is pretty crazy. But I think O-line is going to be a big need for them here, so we're going to just go ahead and take Skoronski. I think they could look wide receiver, but they have a lot of pieces they need to fill, in my opinion. Their defense is really good, but their offense has a lot of holes. And I think, I think a very important thing about rebuilding a team is you have to start in the trenches. And if your O-line or your D-line is not good, the rest of your offense and defense is not going to be all that great either. Then we get the Texans again at 12. I think, what could the Texans do here at 12? They could go receiver potentially. Who do they have at receiver? John Mechie? That's like it. What are their team needs here technically? QB, edge, receiver, and then O-line. Yeah, I could see it. Will Levis potentially falls to them at 12? I don't know. I don't entirely dislike Will Levis as a prospect. The thing is, Will Levis is not a year one starter, in my opinion. If he starts, he's going to be like the worst quarterback in the league. I would not be surprised if he starts. I don't think, like, he could still develop into a good quarterback, but I think if he starts year one, he's going to be a terrible quarterback. However, this could be a spot for him. I don't think there's really another team, unless he falls to Buccaneers at 19. I think that's a pretty obvious spot for him there. Let's see though. What could the Texans do? I think the only like decent receiver they have on roster is John Mechie, and we don't even know if he's going to be back this season. I think this could be a wide receiver spot. This could be a corner spot. The corners are kind of falling. I think the corner class is really good. What are their team needs again? QB edge, wide receiver. Maybe wide receiver. Yeah, I think wide receiver makes a lot of sense here, actually. Maybe just make Davis Mills' life a little easier with the best route runner in the draft, Jordan Addison. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison, but I think Addison's a better route runner. I mean, Smith and Jigba's also a very good route runner, you know, but Addison is like actually an insane route runner. And then we got the Jets at 13, and this would be an obvious tackle spot. However, they're all the top ones are off the board already here. I like Anton Harrison, actually. DeJuan Jones is okay, but, you know, DeJuan Jones is like a very solid, like, second-round pick. I think Anton Harrison could sneak up. I guess Darnell, right? I don't really know much about him. What else do the Jets need? Yeah, O-line for sure. Edge. Quarterback. Not quarterback. They're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Potentially. All these corners are sitting. They should have gone already. This could, I like, if they say they need edge, this is a Lucas Van Ness spot. However, I just don't think they need edge necessarily. If this is actually how the board falls for the Jets, this is a trade back spot. However, they might not have this pick anyway because the Packers might have it. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to do here. I'm befuddled. I don't think edge is as big of a need as they claim it is. However, I don't think I can name their edge rushers. I like Nolan Smith. He's a super good athlete. Van Ness is insane too. Why not? I'll just take Van Ness because I don't know what else to do there. Not what they need. They need tackle. However, all the tackles are just gone already. When did the first one go? One at 7. Yeah, that's a crazy spot for Paris Johnson. The tackles aren't going to start going. I'm guessing the first one will be the Bears off the board, and then it'll fall from there. 7 is a crazy spot for Paris Johnson. That's obvious. Lucas Van Ness would be perfect for the Patriots here. They definitely could use corners, so that's what we're going to take. We're going to take a corner. I think Christian Gonzalez is the best. Devin Witherspoon is also insane. Like, these two guys are nuts with it. So we'll take one of these guys. We'll just go Christian Gonzalez. I think he's the better of the two. And then we got the Packers here at 15. I think I would love Jackson Smith and Jigba here. I would also love Brian Branch here. I think this is like a sneaky pick for the Packers to take Brian Branch at 15. However, I think everybody wants the Packers to take JSN here. I'm going to take JSN. However, I just want it to be known that I would not be surprised that they take Brian Branch. I think I think Van Ness is a Packer pick here, and then I think Brian Branch would be a good Packers pick here. Like, he can play a lot of different defensive back positions. He can play decently in the box as well. He's just like a chess piece defensive player, and I think it would be sick if the Packers get their hands on him. However, Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, will really help elevate this Packers offense. We just don't, I don't think they're going to take a wide receiver necessarily. But, give Jordan Love another option here in the offense, and hopefully it helps him out quite a bit. However, I do think it is, like, poetically ironic that the Packers would take a wide receiver right after getting rid of Aaron Rodgers in the first round. I think that's fucking hilarious. Anyway, for the Commanders here, I think, corner is their big need, right? Where are they? Commanders. Yeah, corner. We're definitely just going to take a corner. We'll take Devin Witherspoon. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. Obviously, they're going to get their hands on potentially the best corner in the class here at 16. You can't go wrong with that because they probably should have been gone already. I think the Steelers also need corner, don't they? They could also use, according to this list, wide receiver, center, tackle, edge. I think corner makes a lot of sense for them as well. So we're going to go Joey Porter here. I've heard Cam Smith to the Steelers makes a lot of sense just because of his like build and type of play. But I don't know that much about that guy. So that's that's basically how that's going to work for me. And then we're going to actually just take Cam Smith right away here to the Lions because they need corner help. And I just think that makes a lot of sense for them. However, I think these two picks could be flipped. I think Joey Porter is better. I've just heard that because Cam Smith is more like a physical guy. He's not really all that big. I just heard like he's a good like physical like. Joey Porter's even bigger though. I don't know. I'm not reading all that. TLDR. Fuck you. I'm gonna lock in Will Levis here for the Buccaneers. They picked up a quarterback though, didn't they? They got who'd they get? Baker Mayfield, right? Yeah. I still think Will Levis makes sense here. Because, like I said, Will Levis should not start this season. He can sit behind Baker a year. He can even come in if Baker underperforms, which he probably will. But Baker might not. Like, I think Baker gets too much hate. Like, I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's mediocre. I put him maybe a tier below. Like, maybe in the same tier, but beneath Garoppolo and Derek Carr. Which that might be a hot take, but fuck you. I don't care. But I just think that Will Levis, you know... Oh, what I was trying to say is that I don't think Baker is going to underperform necessarily in Tampa Bay just because he has good receivers. So, but we'll see how it goes. I'm actually very interested to see how it goes. Seattle at 20. They could... Who did they take earlier? They took edge. They don't need edge help anymore then. What else do they need? Guard, edge, receiver, corner, linebacker. This could be a linebacker spot, maybe. Actually, I could definitely see this being a linebacker spot. They have decent linebacker. Well, no. Well, they just got Bobby Wagner back, didn't they? Yeah, they got Bobby Wagner back. And then I like, where's the Jordan Brooks is a really good linebacker as well. So maybe it's not much of a linebacker spot. Could this be a tight end spot necessarily? It doesn't say they need one. Who is their leading tight end, though? Will Dissly? No, they got Noah Fant in that trade, so they don't need tight end. They don't need wide receiver. I don't know why it lists wide receiver as a team need. Tyler Lockett still has plenty of gas in the tank. DK Metcalf is one of the best wide receivers in the league. If Bijan was still here, I would consider... Oh, no, they got K9 last year. They don't need a running back. I'm just talking on my ass now. Brian Brzee, actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I forgot about him. D-tackle for the Seahawks here at 20. Brian Brzee, that's kind of a steal. I think he should go higher than... Well, this might be around his range. He'll probably go higher, though. He's a very good prospect. Chargers at 21. They need speed at wide receiver position. That's what I like to do here. I think this is going... I think it's a reach. However, I just think that it makes a lot of sense for them to take. Yeah, I think Zay Flowers makes a lot of sense. They need speed. They need a good slot guy. They have two great size receivers, but, you know, with Justin Herbert's arm strength, they have to get a speed guy to get some deep threat, you know, kind of routes going on there. So I think Zay Flowers makes a lot of sense at 21 for the Chargers, even though it might be a bit of a reach based on talent necessarily. And then the Ravens here at 22, I think this was a receiver spot for a lot of people before the OBJ acquirement. But I still think it could be, except I think, oh man, no, they need corner more now. I think they could go receiver if they're, like, the good ones are still on the board, like JSN and Addison. But I think corner is a bigger need. Their defense was really ass last year, especially in the defensive back room. So I think Brian Branch actually makes a lot of sense. He's not a corner, but he can play nickel corner. Keely Ringo, I know he's kind of fallen, but he's a big, like, physical corner. Deontay Banks, actually. Maryland connection. Actually, I've heard him mocked here a lot, actually, and I don't hate it, actually. Let's go Deontay Banks. Brian Branch is going to fall due to positional value at safety. However, I think he could fit in really well, even though they just took another safety last year in what's his name? Kyle Hamilton. Brian Branch is a better safety than Kyle Hamilton, but that's neither here nor there necessarily. I think Deonte Banks still makes a lot of sense for them here. And then the Vikings here at 23. They could go a lot of different ways. I think corner makes a lot of sense. Their corners kind of suck last year. Brian Branch actually makes a lot of sense for the Vikings here. That's what I think I'm going to go with. Brian Branch to the Vikings, just because they need a lot of help in their defensive back room. You know, they brought in last year. They got what's that fucking guy's? Cam Dancer, right? And then they brought in Cam Dantzler and Lewis Seen to kind of bolster that safety or that defensive room, but their defense was still terrible. So I think bringing in Brian Branch to play wherever you need him to play in the defensive back room, that makes a lot of sense to me. I know a lot of people say tight end to the Jaguars here. However, I like oh God, what's his name? I'm forgetting like everybody's name today, but their tight end, Evan Engram. I like Evan Engram at tight end for them. I think they still could go tight end. What else does their team need to say here? Corner, safety, tight end, guard, D-tackle. They could still definitely go tight end here, I guess. Who are we thinking though? Personally, I really like Darnell Washington, but I don't know if he's gonna go this high. I like Michael Mayer over Kincaid, but I don't know. I've heard a lot of good things about Kincaid. We'll go Kincaid here at 24 to the Jaguars. I think, like, a lot of teams are going to run 2 tight end sets. I think that makes a lot of sense in certain aspects. I just really like Evan Engram, and I don't want people to, like, disregard him. You know, whatever, though, I guess. And then the Giants here at 25. They need O-line help. What else does this say for them, though? Corner, running back. They don't need running back. Well, yeah, I guess they kind of do now since does Saquon say he's not playing on the tag or something like that. Safety line. Could be a linebacker spot. Could be a linebacker spot. I've heard interior O-linemen get mocked to them. There's like a center. Yeah, John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota that gets mocked to him a lot. I kind of like the idea of going linebacker here. They could use wide receiver, but I don't think Quentin Johnson is going to be a great fit there. They brought in Darren Waller, so they already have like a premier receiving option as long as he stays healthy. I like the idea of going maybe Trenton Simpson here. I like Noah Sewell personally quite a bit, but he's kind of falling. I'm an Oregon. Oregon's my favorite college team, actually, so that's why I kind of like him. Where's that? Dian Henley. Why is he so far down? He's actually pretty good. I'm going to just go Trenton Simpson because he's the top linebacker, and I just think they need linebackers. So that's what I'm doing here at 25 for the Giants. And then 26 could be a running back spot if Bijan's still on the board. However, he's not here, obviously. He went a lot earlier to the Eagles. What else do they think the Cowboys need? I don't think they need wide receiver. I think when I think of the Cowboys, I think a running back for sure. This could be a trade down spot potentially. I think CeeDee Lamb is great. And they have a few other good receivers in behind him. Tight end's a spot here, I think, because they just got rid of Dalton Schultz. Actually, yeah, I'm not even going to look that up. I'm taking tight end here. Michael Mayer to Dallas. They just got rid of Dalton Schultz. They need another tight end to come in. I think Michael Mayer makes a lot of sense for them. The Bills at 27. I kind of want to go fancy and take Jahmyr Gibbs because, like, I think they need running back. But they just brought in, or they just drafted James Cook last year, and I know people were down on him, but I still think he could develop into a pretty good. I think they need wide receiver help personally. I think if Quentin Johnson is going to like blossom at any spot here, I think pairing him up with a premier quarterback in the league is a really good idea. So I like the idea of Quentin Johnston to the Bills here at 27. And then I think for the Bengals here, I think tight end makes a lot of sense because they just lost well, they didn't. No, that was 2 years ago. They lost Uzama, who I thought was a really good tight end. And then they have, Hayden Hurst. I think tight end makes sense here. There's not really another edge rusher. Man, actually, that's not true because I like Nolan Smith. I like B.J. Ojolari. He's a second-round guy. Nolan Smith could sneak in here at 28. I think tight end makes a lot of sense for them as well, though. Actually, yeah, Darnell Washington to the Bengals makes a lot of sense if you think about it because he's, like, gigantic. He's going to be a good blocker, you know. He's, like, the size of, like, an extra, like, O-lineman, but he can also catch passes. So I think that makes a lot of sense for them. He's going to be a potent weapon for the Bengals in their offense, who already has a lot of potent offensive weapons. Saints at 29. Let's see. What do they need? Tackle, edge, wide receiver, tight end. I think wide receiver actually makes a lot of sense for the Saints because all they really have is Chris Olave. In my opinion, I don't trust Michael Thomas to stay healthy. That's how I see it. However, I don't really know what wide receiver they could take. Josh Downs maybe, Jalen Hyatt. I'm still not super high on him necessarily. Yeah, no, there's not a wide receiver I want to take. I don't know what they take here. Maybe Nolan Smith. I like the idea of Nolan Smith to the Eagles, but I think Nolan Smith might make sense here. Kalijah Cansey maybe even, just with the aging O-line or D-line. But Nolan Smith here I like. I just like Nolan Smith. I think he could be really good. And it says they need edge help, which yeah, I would agree with that. But then we got Eagles again here at 30. Corner, edge, safety, tackle, linebacker. This could be just like anyone they wanted because they already have like everything they need. Maybe take another guard just to like replenish and have some of these guys like learn behind some of the other guards that they are, or some of the good players they have. They have a lot of old but really good offensive linemen. So maybe bring in a young guy to learn from some of the best in the league. Osiris Torrance, maybe the best guard on the board from Florida. I think that makes a lot of sense for them. And then once again, the Chiefs, much like the Eagles, they can take whatever they want. I don't really think they have any too pressing needs. Tackle, wide receiver, edges, D-tackle, safety. It could just be whoever they want, you know. D-tackle, this could be a Kalijah Cansey spot. Pretty good interior pass rusher, just a little bit undersized. I think that actually kind of makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs. Anyway, that's gonna wrap up the. I wish it showed the whole thing because, well, this is kind of a dumb mock draft, I guess. Hopefully, you guys saw the whole thing. I don't know why it's not gonna like show me the whole board. Maybe I shouldn't have locked in that pick, I guess, but whatever. Anyway, that's kind of just how I feel about the first round of the draft. I think there's a lot of guys that could still sneak into the first round, and there's a lot of guys who I put in the first round that aren't necessarily going to make it. And I think that there's going to be a lot of trading, obviously. There's a lot of like trade spots, you know, obvious trade spots, and then there's also a lot of just, you know, there's a lot of bizarrety that happens in the NFL draft. It's going to be very, very strange indeed. But I'm very excited. 9 days away from the time of recording this. You guys might not see it today on April 19th. You probably will see it tomorrow just due to how long it's going to take to render and upload anyway. So thank you guys so much for watching though. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you feel like it. Comment down below if you want to see more stuff like this. Like I said, I am going to do one more mock draft. 7-round Packers oriented. Just I don't know if I want to make it all 7 rounds because I'm probably, after like 3, I'm not going to know a lot of the prospects on the board. It's just more like I want to get my thoughts on what the Packers should do in the draft, not necessarily which prospects they should target. Anyway, that's going to do it. You guys have a good rest of your day now. Take care.